Hi, this is Candice from Everyday Better. Welcome to this week's episode of Move, Recover, Thrive. This week we are talking about deep sleep and the glymphatic washout. So you don't actually get fit while you're in the gym. You don't get stronger while you're in the gym. You actually get fit and stronger while you're sleeping. And I'll explain why. When you go into a deep sleep, what we call non-rapid eye movement sleep, NREM, your brain cells actually shrink by about 60%. And that means that you can have a really good washout of the brain. A common analogy used to describe this is think of your brain like a busy kitchen. So while it's in the daytime, you've got lots of customers, the chefs are working hard in the kitchen, they're creating quite a bit of mess. They'll do a little sweep up here and there, but the kitchen is a bit of a mess by the end of the day. Once everyone goes home, that's when the cleaners move in and give the kitchen a big overhaul. They'll mop out the floors, clean the sinks, put the dishes away, and everything goes back to a nice functioning place. So think of your brain like that kitchen. So during the day, lots of activity in the brain, and your brain actually creates a lot of metabolic waste. It's not until when you go deeply into sleep that your brain cells will shrink down and you'll have a glymphatic washout. Glia being brain cells, lymphatic being your lymphatic system. So your brain cells shrink down and then all of the cerebrospinal fluid comes through your brain, washes out all that metabolic waste that's built up during the day. And most importantly, it also clears out beta amyloid, which is a protein that is highly linked to Alzheimer's. So a few ways that you can test how well you're sleeping and how well you're recovering. The first one is sleep latency, which is basically how well do you get to sleep. And there's a sweet spot. So if you fall asleep as soon as your head hits the pillow, you're probably sleep deprived. And that's actually not a great thing. But on the other hand, if you fall asleep, 30 minutes after laying down or longer, that means that it's taking you a little bit too long. So you probably have too much cortisol circulating in your body. So your body's struggling to get from sympathetic mode, fight or flight, into parasympathetic, rest and digest. So if you fall asleep in what we call the sweet spot between 10 and 20 minutes, that's a great sign for your recovery, that you've gone to bed on time, you've taken good care of your sleep hygiene, and you can transition nicely from waking to resting. Another thing that's a little bit more technical, but a great way of knowing how well you're sleeping is actually to monitor your resting heart rate while you sleep. And you can really easily do that these days on your smartwatch or an Oura Ring. So if you look at your sleep data and look for your resting heart rate, does your resting heart rate hit its lowest point in the first half of the night or the second half of the night? If it's in the second half of the night, it means that you probably aren't recovering all that well. It's taken too long for your body to completely relax to get to the stage where it can have its washout. Not only does deep sleep indicate your glymphatic washout, but it also gives you a peak opportunity for repairing. So growth hormone factor is released under NREM if it's in the first half of the night. So that means if you are, a bit sore from the gym, or especially if you've got an injury, that growth hormone factor will help with muscle repair, collagen synthesis, bone remodeling. So it's really important that you give your body the most opportunity to repair from that, and that is by having good recovery early in the night. If your great recovery doesn't come till 4 or 5 a.m., then you're only getting a few hours to have the washout and the growth hormone come into play. There's one thing that you can do that's pretty simple that will really help with your recovery, and that is within 30 minutes of waking, try and get some actual sunlight. So maybe just have your breakfast out in the sun or by a window, because even if it's on a cloudy day, the photons that your retina receives trigger, so sunlight coming into your eyes actually triggers what we call the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the SCN, and that's basically your body's master clock, and it controls your circadian rhythm. So when that happens, when you get photons into your retina, that triggers the SCN, and the SCN releases cortisol. And at this stage of the day, that's a great thing because it gives you alertness. But what it also does is it starts a timer. So 14 to 16 hours later, you will have melatonin released automatically. Melatonin makes you sleepy and puts you in a good state for sleeping. If you don't start the clock, once you wake up, your body doesn't know when to stop the clock, so it doesn't know when to release melatonin, and it gets quite disrupted. A few other things that will really contribute to your sleep and what we call resting heart rate thieves is late meals, because your body needs more time to digest, late caffeine, unfortunately, and late stress or late screens. Caffeine is really important. It's a great supplement, and it's really interesting the way it works in your body, and we might dive into that on another episode. But for now, just trust me that caffeine blocks adenosine, which is your sleepy molecule, caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours, which means it has a quarter life of 10 to 12 hours. So if you have a 3 p.m. coffee to stop the afternoon slump, that means 25% of that caffeine is still circulating in your body and in your brain, blocking your sleepy hormone at 3 a.m. at night. So unfortunately, it is great to stop the caffeine early in the morning so your body can recover. And that is the best way to make the most out of the gym and all your gains, but also get your thinking clearer and get your movement patterns into a more aligned position. That all happens overnight. All of the effort that you put in during the day comes to realization at night. So take good care of your sleep quality with a few of those tricks. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to talking to you next week for the next episode of Move, Recover, Thrive.